My work has always been a conversation with architecture. That's just the inevitable reality of painting murals and working in public. Starting out in graffiti, there was always a conversation in my work with architecture, with building and with the built environment. For this project, it's a little bit about what's in the building, I think. You know, this piece is on an old folks' home. I'm conscious of that. I think there's like a tendency in society to tuck old people away. I think it's important that the work brings people outside, but also lets people know that there is humanity inside a building. Architecture can be isolating in that way. So for me, it's important that the artwork complements that and injects humanity into a space that can be isolating. It's a painting of a friend of mine. It's someone that works in the healthcare industry, has been a nurse, has worked in an old folks' home. You know, a personal piece for me because a good chunk of my family works in healthcare. My sister's a nurse, friends and family are nurses, uncles, an auntie who's a nurse, uncle who's working in care. My cousin works here in care. I paint the work in a blurred or abstracted way. It relates back to early Impressionism, and I can deconstruct the image using this technique by photographing the model and by photographing the subject behind glass. I can blur them, I can abstract them a little bit, and it becomes less about painting a portrait of an individual. And more an imprint of community or human or a person in general. Separate the subject matter a little bit, and it doesn't become too personal about any specific individual. I painted photorealism for a really long time. There's something that happens when you work in this kind of technical way. I feel like you reach kind of a final point where you can't really improve. You've developed all the techniques. You can paint photorealism, you can do a portrait. Just painting portraits or painting realism kind of loses its challenge a little bit. And then if you're curious, there's always like a natural desire to start pulling the image apart in whatever way you can. Whether that's blurring, breaking, deconstructing. That was something that someone pointed out to me. He was looking at it and goes, it's kind of interesting. The portrait is of a young person, of a healthcare worker, and the way that the image is blurred might relate to kind of the imperfections of memory, experience of dementia, experience of the final years of life, the kind of passing of time. And that's something I hadn't really picked up on the piece, so that's kind of what he got out of it. You know, that's a nice element of it as well. It's kind of fun to play around with these visual allegories, blur the image, distort the image and see how it sits with people and how people can reflect on it. Sometimes when you make a piece like this, you don't necessarily see what other people see. And that's kind of the beauty of putting work out in public, is people can have their own relationship with it for different reasons. The work takes on a life of its own, you know? So that's always quite rewarding.